Assalamualaikum and good day to Zudin. My name is Syarfa Nur Hairunnisa, Binti Syed Anuar from Group NBF4M. Today, I'll be presenting my corporate finance report on capital structure, decision in corporate finance, focusing on key theories, factors, and their practical implication. Okay, now I'm going to explain about the capital structure. What is the capital structure? Capital structure is basically how a company choose to finance business through a combination of debt and equity. Debt usually comes in the form of loan or bonds, while equity includes things like common stock and retained earning. Getting this mix right is important because it impacts the company financial health, how much it costs to raise money, and how much value it can deliver to the shareholder. The goal is to find a balance that supports both stability and future growth. Now, how does a firm determine its optimal capital structure? The answer lies in balance the benefit and cost of financing option. One approach is the trade-off theory, which suggests firms should borrow up to the point where the tax benefit of additional debt are exactly offset by the rising cost of financial distress. Manager must consider various factors like business risk. Firm in volatile industry should use less debt. For the tax rate, higher tax rate make debt financing more attractive. For the financial flexibility, the companies need room to maneuver in uncertain time. For the growth potential, high growth firms might prefer equity to avoid fixed obligation. For instance, manufacturing firms might restructure its capital to reduce WACC and free up fund for expansion. Financial models and comparison with industry benchmark also guide the decision. Ultimately, the goal is to determine a debt equity ratio that maximizes firm value and minimize risk. There is several factors influence capital structure decision. The first one is business risk. Higher operation risk means lower debt capacity. A company with fluctuating earning may struggle to meet debt payment, so it's prefer equity. For the tax consideration, since interest is tax deductible, firm is high tax jurisdiction often prefer debt to maximize after tax profit. For the financial flexibility, firm value the ability to adapt to a new opportunity or downturn. Too much debt can limit future borrowing capacity. For the growth opportunity, high growth companies tend to use equity to avoid cash flow constraints and preserve resources for reinvestment. For the market in condition, during favorable market condition, firm might use equity at high valuation. In a downturn, they might prefer debt in interest rate are low. For the managerial preference and control, some managers prefer equity to avoid lender scrutiny, while others use debt to signal confidence or maintain control. For the financial distress is what happens when a company starts having trouble paying its bills, whether it's loan repayment, supplier invoice, or day-to-day expenses. This usually happens when debt is too high, revenue drops, or the company just isn't being managed well financially. There are two types of costs that come with financial distress. Direct costs, there is obvious one like legal fee, court costs, and other administrative expenses tied to bankrupt or trying to restructure. Another one is indirect costs. These are more hidden but just as serious. Things like losing loyal customer, damaging your reputation, employees leaving, or business operation being disrupted. Think of a big retail heading towards bankruptcy. Even before it's officially filed, supplier might stop deliver goods, shelves start looking empty, and top employee may jump ship. The business start crumbling from the inside out. So, while using debt can bring tax saving, too much of it can push a company into dangerous territory where the risk of financial distress start to outweigh the benefit and the overall value of the business start to shrink. Okay, now let's talk about how company balance the tax benefit of debt with the risk of financial distress. A key idea is what we call the trade-off theory. There's the basic idea talking on debt, be a smart move because interest payment are tax deductible. This lower the company taxable income and leaves more cash in hand, what we call the interest tax shield. It's a nice way to boost firm value, but there's a catch. The more debt a company takes on, the higher the risk of running into trouble. Lender may charge higher interest, impose tighter condition, or the company reputation could take a hit if things start to wobble. So, what's the sweet spot? It's that middle ground where the extra value from tax saving is just enough to balance out the rising risk of financial distress. The company, that's the company optimal capital structure. For example, a company with steady cash flow, like a utility firm, can usually afford to take more debt and enjoy those tax benefits. But a new fast-growing startup might want to steer clean of heavy debt since even a small bump in the road could cause a big problem. Next is for agency cost of equity. Agency costs pop up when manager and shareholder are always on the same page. Manager might sometimes focus on their own interests, like hiring more staff than needed or spending on perks rather than doing what the best for the company and its shareholder. This kind of misalignment is known as agency cost of equity. One way to keep things in check is by using debt. When a company takes on debt, it has less spare cash lying around, which encourage manager to spend more carefully. But there's a flip side. Too much debt can create its own issue. Lender might worry that manager will make risky decision that put their loans at risk. That's known as agency cost of debt. So it's all about balance. Company need the right mix of financial discipline and flexibility. Tools like performance based on bonus and strong board oversight can help to ensure the managers stay focused on long-term value and the shareholder interest. For the picking order theory, introduced by Mayers and Majlouf, looks at the companies decide where to get their funds from and in what order. It all comes down to inform gaps. Company Insider, like manager, always know more about the business than outside investor. Because because of that, firms prefer to use their own money first, like retained earning. If they need more, they usually go for that. Next, it's been a less risk and doesn't raise too many questions. Issuing equity, selling new share is the last resort because it might send a negative signal to investor. It could make people think the company is overvalued or in trouble. According to this theory, company doesn't aim for a fixed debt to equity ratio. Instead, they make financing decision based on what available and what costs the least. So, the company that doing well has plenty of profit, save up might never need outside funding. But a company low on cash may have to turn on debt or even equity, despite how it might look to the market. The next one is signaling hypothesis. Closely related to the pecking order theory is the signaling hypothesis. When a firm issues debt, it signals confidence in future cash flow because debt requires fixed payment and increased risk. Conversely, issuing equity might signal that the firm's stock in overvalue or that it's lack internal resources. This explains why market often react negatively to equity issuance announcement but positively to the debt issuance provided the firm's fundamentals are going for insane. It is a firm announcement a major expansion funded by debt. Investor might see it as a vote of confidence, but if the same expansion is funded by equity, they might worry about dilution or overvaluation. Understanding signaling effect helps firms manage investor perception and align capital structure decision with strategy goal. And the last one is conclusion. In summary, capital structure decision are at the heart of corporate financial strategy. By balancing debt and equity, firms aim to maximize value, minimize risk, and send the right signals to the investor. We explore how to determine optimal capital structure factor influencing decision, the role of financial distress, and theory, like the trade-off, picking order, and signaling hypothesis. Remember, while theory provides frameworks, every firm situation is unique. Financial manager must consider internal factor, market condition, and long-term strategy when designing their capital structure. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of capital structure. And thank you.